Okay guys, we've got a 2007 Toyota Sequoia and we're going to put a radiator in this vehicle. And the reason is if you look right here along the top, first you can see the corrosion. You can probably hear it when I squeeze the hose. Now, whenever this has got water all the way up to the top, you can squeeze this hose and it'll seep out that crack right there along the top. So this radiator's bad, and her complaint was obviously the vehicle started overheating. And I went over and looked at it, and sure enough, the radiator, the coolant was about 2 gallons low. And whenever I got to looking and squeezing on the hose, I noticed the water coming out of the crack there. So pretty easy radiator to change. I'm going to try to catch all the whatever coolant's left in it, because she had been putting 100% coolant in it, so it should be pretty clean. So the first thing we got to do is, if you get it up underneath here, you've got a shield that you've got to take off. Super easy. Looks like 12 or 13 millimeter, and this whole shield will drop down. So let me get that off, and then we'll get started. I believe there's only 4 bolts. You might have one here. Now she does not, but you should have at least a couple in each corner. So that's about all there is to that. So let me get this knocked off here and we'll get started. Alright guys, we're up underneath the vehicle. We're going to have 2 transmission lines. We got one here, got some pinch off pliers on here to prevent any excess fluid from leaking. Got one here. All you do is smash those with pliers. So get that off. Got a radiator hose down here. Same thing, pinch off pliers. Going to smash that hose. The one thing you kind of might want to do before you break those loose is, if you look right here, there's a clip. Sorry about that glare. But if you reach in here on the inboard side, you can pop that lower shroud off. Now it's also held on right here too. There's one here, one here. And again, I want to just reach up here on the inboard side using my thumb and pull that loose. Okay, and then once it's popped out there, you're going to get this lower shroud out of your way. And you're going to want to do that before you start making a mess with all your fluids. And you can see those clips will stay on there if you pop them loose from the inboard side, from the inner side. So now I'm going to get a drain pan, which I've got right here, ready to go. We got a little petcock. We're going to open that up, make sure we're kind of in position here. And we're going to let this drain. While that's draining, I'm going to go up top and I'm going to just start disconnecting stuff. You can take this all the way out and it'll drain faster, but it's going to shoot that way and possibly make a mess, and that's what I'm trying to prevent here. So while that's draining, you can be up here. We're going to take this radiator hose loose. Probably won't really need to use pinch off pliers on it. I'm just going to put it maybe behind this hose here to hold it out of the way. Disconnect the overflow bottle. You've got a bolt right here. Same on the other side. And you've got one down below. I think you can see it right there. That bottom, that lower one. We're going to have to just reach in through the grill with a long extension. Shouldn't be a problem. And then this whole radiator should pop up and out of here. So let me get my pliers, get the camera set up, and we'll start getting this hose out of the way. I'm going to try to keep the camera as stable as possible, but I'm going to take this bolt out real quick. Now the reason I've got such a long extension, as you'll see here in a minute. Come over here. So the upper part of this is disconnected. We're going to leave the upper shroud on for now. We are going to have to swap that over, but may as well do it on the ground. It's going to be easier. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go right in through here to get on that lower bolt. Reach down and grab that bolt before it falls into the water. And I'm going to leave this other one in for now because I don't need the there's my socket, just fell into the water. I don't need the radiator falling at this point. We still got the lower hoses to disconnect and transmission lines. And the reason you've got to take that lower part of the shroud out is because the fan is still installed. So with that lower part of the shroud, you can't pull the radiator straight up. You've got to make room for it. So I'll turn the camera on whenever I'm back underneath the vehicle, disconnecting lines. Okay, I went ahead and removed that drain plug altogether. Now I'm just going to attach these clamps. Switch hands. I got coolant all over my hands and it's slippery. Adjustment. Okay, I'm going to need two hands to get this clamp all the way up here, so I'm going to have to put the camera down. I'm going to push that clamp up and pop that hose off after I've moved the drain pan over a little bit. Alright, these hoses were too tight for me to twist them off with my hand. So if you guys don't have a pair of these, you might consider getting a pair because they are real nice to be able to grip onto hoses like this, and you can turn them back and forth and slide your hose off a lot easier than doing it by hand. You'll see what I mean probably on this one. I'm just going to hold, I'm going to get these up top here if I can. That one's not really leaking much. That one was pouring out, so I've just shoved it up there. Alright, now the radiator hose and we should be good. Let me get a little awl to stick in there to break that seal. Alright, so I got the radiator hose popped off, got both the transmission cooler lines off. So we're pretty much done underneath here. The only thing holding this radiator in right now is that single bolt down there. I did hand screw this one back in just to make sure that it didn't fall on me. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my ratchet, the long extension, go right in through here, and get on that bolt, just like that. There it is. Now, let me mount the camera up. It's that easy. And obviously now would be a good time to replace your hoses. I asked her if she wanted me to. She said no. She didn't have a lot of money, so we'll do what we can. See where it's been leaking for a while. 12 millimeter, and then we will get that shroud transferred over to this one. She's already missing a bolt right here. So, okay, well, okay, they're 10 millimeter. I'll just use a deep well for that. Alright guys, as it turns out, so these radiators will fit multiple vehicles. And you can tell, you can see that the bracket that they've got on this one, I've got this up pretty much as high as it'll go, and it's not going to bolt up. So I'm going to have to swap these side brackets around, which is no big deal. Be careful not to damage the new radiator. Get this old one, or this new one off here. Of course, they got to use a different size on the new one. Don't need to tighten these up too awful tight. Alright, let me get this other side done, and then we're going back in with it. Or actually putting the shroud on. missing a bolt down here. I think it's going to be alright. I looked around to see if I had the right size and I don't. But like I said, I don't think it's going to hurt nothing. It's just the shroud. You got some little ears that's got to go in some slots. Once you get past that, it's no big deal. And the little ears I'm talking about is on the bracket itself. You can see that little ear right there. They go in those little slots, and that'll prevent it from dropping all the way down. Then all you got to do is just stab the bolts in, and then hook the hoses up. Probably one of the easier radiators you can do. Okay, I'm going to start putting the lower bolts in. I'm going to use this long extension, and I'm going to show you a trick that you can do. So I'm going to have this bolt in this socket and have it not fall out whenever I push this up there. And a trick you can do is just take a piece of paper towel or paper or tape, put it over the socket, and then push the socket in, or the bolt in. And now it'll hold it in there while you put it in, turn it, get it started. Show you what I mean on this one. Just got to tighten this one up. This one's in. Find it where I can see the dang thing. Got all four of the mounting bolts tight. Now it's a good idea if you can salvage this piece of foam, or if you got another piece of foam to put in there, it is worth trying to get that transferred over to the new one. And the reason it's not to prevent these from hitting, because once they're mounted, the radiator's not going to hit the radiator support. What it's for is to close off this gap so that instead of the air coming in from the top and bypassing the condenser, it's going to have to go through the condenser. It's sealed off at the top, and then you're going to get more airflow. You're going to get more airflow through the condenser and the radiator. That's what that foam's for. And if you can transfer it over, that's a good idea. But as old as this is, trying to peel this off and then get it to stick back on there, I don't know if I'm going to have any luck. I'm going to get a razor knife and see if I can slice that off and get that transferred over here. That way it'll just have that much more cooling efficiency. But while we're here, we can hook that up. Hook that up. Do not have to disconnect this, but you may if you can't finagle it around it. It's the AC line. Alright, let's press on. Alright guys, so we've got all the hoses hooked up, radiator and both the lines there. These were loose, so I snugged those up with a wrench. So make sure that you check those at least, and make sure they're tightened up. Make sure that this is tight. And then at this point, we're going to put the lower shroud in. Make sure it goes the right way. I'm just going to fish one end up first. might take two hands, so sorry I can't just show her everything here. There it is. And what you probably want to do is these little tabs right here. Go ahead and put those in their little spot. And that way the upper part should just snap in right where it's supposed to go. That's dark for me too, guys, so there's that one. And there's that one. And that's it. Of course, we had that missing bolt. It was actually on that other side, but doesn't matter. So the only thing that's left down here is that shroud. The shroud just had two bolts in the back, two bolts up front here. I ain't going to show that. And that's pretty much it. Got to put coolant in it. Start it up, let it warm up. Make sure the upper radiator hose gets nice and warm before you drive off, and make sure that you're in a normal temperature reading. Then you're done. I was not able to salvage that piece of foam that goes right here. But if you want max cooling, if you live in a hot climate, it might be worth to buy some foam and fill this entire gap up with foam. That way it just prevents air. As air's flowing through the radiator and the condenser, it's going to be pulled through by the fan, and it's going to take the path of least resistance. It's going to have more resistance coming through these little fins than it is coming down through the top. So you want to block this off and force the air to go through the condenser. You're going to have better AC performance and better cooling performance from the radiator if all the air is coming from the front and being pulled through the condenser and the radiator, as opposed to hot air from the engine being sucked around the radiator, pulled down through the top, and then it's going to be going through the only the radiator, not the condenser. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and call her done. Like I said, all I got to do is put coolant in it, put that lower guard on the bottom, rock guard, and this is done. So this was a 2007 Toyota Sequoia Radiator. If I wouldn't have been filming, it was probably a 15 to 20 minute job. So pretty easy. You guys take care.